1. The foundation of healthy attachment. Healthy attachment is built on the psychological concept of secure base, a foundation of trust that allows both partners to venture out into the world, knowing they have a reliable, non-judgmental place to return to. This dynamic is characterized by mutual respect for individuality. It recognizes that the partner is a whole person with their own separate life, dreams, friends, and needs. A healthy bond provides comfort and security, without demanding control or fusion. It embraces interdependence, relying on each other, rather than codependence, needing the other to function. True secure attachment requires consistent, reliable emotional availability, and the courage to engage in honest, vulnerability-driven communication, where disagreements are resolved respectfully, not suppressed or punished. 2. Defining obsession. Obsession in the context of relationships is not just thinking about someone a lot. It's a persistent, intrusive, and unwanted preoccupation that causes significant distress and impairment. It is often rooted in limerence, a state of involuntary adoration and craving for reciprocation. The thoughts are ego-dystonic, meaning they feel foreign or irrational to the person experiencing them, yet they cannot be dismissed. This fixation transcends affection and becomes a mental loop, often centered on anxiety. Are they thinking about me? Where are they? Are they talking to someone else? This mental landscape is consumed by the person's presence, or perceived absence, driving the obsessed individual to prioritize the object of their obsession over their own well-being, work, or social life. It's a need, not a preference. 3. The psychology of the obsessed. The shift from affection to obsession is often driven by profound internal deficits. The obsessed individual frequently suffers from a deep-seated low self-worth and an intense fear of abandonment. They project their need for validation and completeness onto the other person, seeing them not as a partner but as a solution to their emotional problems. This desperate neediness leads to a fragile emotional state. Any perceived slight or distance is interpreted as a catastrophic threat to their existence. The possessive behavior is, paradoxically, a clumsy, destructive attempt to manage their own anxiety. They believe that if they can control the external person, they can control their internal chaos. This dynamic often draws people with anxious attachment styles, who, due to childhood experiences, view relationships as inherently unstable and requiring constant vigilance. 4. The transition to possession. Possession is the behavioral expression of the obsessive thought pattern. It is the active, deliberate effort to own, manage, and restrict another person's life choices. The possessor genuinely believes they have rights over the target's time, body, and social sphere. This transition often begins subtly, disguised as intense care or loyalty. I just worry about you, or I know what's best for us. Over time, this masks an entitlement complex. The target is no longer seen as a separate individual, but as a crucial component of the possessor's identity, a vital piece of property they cannot afford to lose. Any attempt by the target to assert independence is met with fury, not because the possessor is hurt, but because they feel their property is defying them. 5. Control as the core motivation. The drive for control is absolute and pervasive. It is implemented through a series of escalating demands that systematically diminish the target's autonomy. This isn't just about big decisions, it's about the micromanagement of existence. This includes controlling personal appearance, what they wear or eat, their career path, discouraging challenging jobs, and their schedule, demanding check-ins or accountability for all time spent away. The possessor needs to know the who, what, where, and when of the target's life at all times. This constant surveillance provides a fleeting sense of security for the possessor, confirming that the target is still available and obedient. 6. Isolation, the possessor's primary tool. Isolation is perhaps the most insidious tactic because it systematically dismantles the target's defense mechanisms. The possessor targets and undermines the credibility of the target's entire support system. Friends are labeled as bad influences, family members are described as unsupportive or jealous, and colleagues are dismissed as temptations. The goal is to make the target believe that the possessor is the only one who truly understands and cares for them. Once isolated, the target has no external perspective to validate their feelings of distress, no one to turn to for help, and no safe harbor to escape to, making them fully dependent on the possessor for all emotional and social input. 7. Digital stalking and monitoring. In the digital age, possession has a powerful new vector. Digital stalking is the constant, covert, or overt monitoring of a partner's online activity. This can range from demanding full access to passwords for phones and social media accounts, to installing tracking apps, spyware, on their devices. The possessor may obsessively track the target's GPS location, monitor the time of their last active status on messaging apps, or even create fake accounts to test their loyalty. This intrusion is often justified as transparency or trust building, but its true function is to create a digital cage, ensuring that the target feels watched and monitored 24/7, even when physically separated. 8. The erosion of boundaries. The possessor views boundaries, physical, emotional, or time-related, as personal insults or obstacles to their legitimate rights. They engage in boundary probing, constantly testing how much they can demand and how much the target will concede. If the target says no, the possessor responds with intense pressure, tantrums, or emotional withdrawal until the boundary is violated. Eventually, the target stops setting boundaries altogether to avoid conflict. This erosion means the possessor feels entitled to interrupt work, demand attention, read private journals, or disregard basic rules of privacy, leaving the target feeling exposed, vulnerable, and without a safe mental space. 9. Manipulation and emotional blackmail. Manipulation is the currency of the possessive relationship. The possessor employs sophisticated techniques to induce compliance without resorting to physical force. Emotional blackmail is a prime example. If you really loved me, you wouldn't go out with your friends, or, I don't know what I'd do without you, I might hurt myself. This weaponizes the target's empathy and loyalty. Gaslighting is also prevalent, where the possessor denies the target's reality, that never happened, or you're too sensitive, making the target doubt their own memory, sanity, and judgment, thus making them more reliant on the possessor's version of events. 10. The victim's loss of self-identity. The chronic stress of the relationship causes the target to develop a fawning response, where they subconsciously prioritize the possessor's needs and moods to ensure their own safety. To minimize conflict, they begin to shed aspects of their own identity. Old hobbies are dropped, distinct political views are softened, favorite clothes are no longer worn. They begin to define themselves solely through the possessor's approval or disapproval. This psychological attrition leads to a profound sense of alienation. The person looking back from the mirror is someone they barely recognize, an emotional shell who exists primarily to satisfy the demands of the possessor. 11. Red flags in early stages. Toxic attachment doesn't start with chains, it starts with excessive adoration. The key early warning signs include love bombing, an intense rush of attention, gifts, and compliments designed to overwhelm the target and speed up the commitment timeline. This is followed by excessive jealousy over past relationships, casual acquaintances, or even co-workers, often with no rational basis. Another major red flag is the possessor's rapid insistence on fusion. We are one person, or we must do everything together. They discourage solo activities and demand immediate, constant contact, creating a feeling of being rushed and smothered before trust has genuinely been established. 12. Distinguishing love from need. The fundamental difference lies in the direction of the desire. Love is an outward-focused desire for the partner's happiness and flourishing, even if that growth takes them on a path independent of the lover. Love celebrates the partner's success and freedom. Obsession/need, however, is an inward-focused desire for the partner's stability and proximity to fill the possessor's own emptiness. The possessor needs the target in the same way they might need a drug. The target is a dependency used to regulate the possessor's emotional state. This dependency is not partnership. It's a profound transactional selfishness disguised as profound affection. 13. The role of codependency. While often confused with possession, codependency is a pathology where both individuals are psychologically tied to the dysfunctional system. The possessor needs the target to control, and the target develops a need to be needed, or to suffer, often confusing caretaking with love. The target may believe that the possessor's emotional outbursts are a reflection of their deep love, or that they are the only person capable of saving or fixing the broken possessor. This dynamic keeps the cycle going, as the target unconsciously sacrifices their own needs to maintain the possessor's fragile equilibrium, reinforcing the possessor's belief that they are too vital to be abandoned. 14. Escalation to verbal and emotional abuse. When the target's resistance mounts, the possessor's methods escalate. Verbal abuse is designed to systematically dismantle the target's inner confidence. This includes name-calling, constant nitpicking, sarcastic remarks about their intelligence or appearance, and public humiliation. The goal is to make the target feel so worthless and incompetent that they believe they could never survive or be loved by anyone else. This is often an attempt to preemptively destroy the target's desire to leave by ensuring their self-esteem is too low to attempt escape. 15. The fear factor. As the attachment turns dangerous, the emotional landscape shifts entirely from affection to fear. The target is no longer motivated by the joy of companionship, but by the dread of the possessor's reaction. This fear governs all choices: what to say, what to wear, where to go, and how long to be gone. The target lives in a constant state of hypervigilance, perpetually scanning the possessor's mood for signs of impending anger or disapproval. This chronic state of anxiety and fear is emotionally exhausting and reinforces the possessor's power, as the target's actions are now entirely predictable and centered on appeasement. 16. Denial and rationalization. The mechanism of denial is powerful for both parties. The possessor rationalizes their intrusive behavior, framing it as extraordinary love, protection, or superior judgment. "I'm just protecting you from yourself." The target often engages in wishful thinking, clinging to the good times or rare moments of kindness, minimizing the severity of the abuse. "It wasn't that bad," or "he was just having a bad day." This rationalization is a survival mechanism that helps the target avoid the painful, terrifying truth that the person they are with is harming them, making the situation seem manageable and less urgent to flee. 17. Legal and physical dangers. The possessive dynamic carries the severe risk of escalating to criminal behavior. When the relationship ends, the possessor often views the target's departure as the ultimate betrayal, leading to stalking, physical or cyber, menacing, harassment, and property damage. In the most tragic cases, the possessor's inability to cope with the loss of control culminates in physical violence. Statistics tragically show that the moment of leaving a possessive and abusive partner is often the most dangerous, underscoring the lethal potential when control is completely lost. 18. The psychological damage to the target. The long-term psychological impact is severe and pervasive, often resulting in complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD. Victims frequently struggle with hyperarousal, emotional dysregulation, and flashbacks. They may develop chronic anxiety disorders and depression. Crucially, they face a profound difficulty in establishing healthy boundaries and trusting future partners. Their internal calibration for what constitutes normal, respectful behavior is damaged, often leading them to either avoid intimacy entirely or, conversely, become trapped in similar cycles of unhealthy attachment. 19. Breaking the cycle, intervention and support. The target cannot break the cycle alone due to the isolation and psychological damage. The first and most critical step is acknowledging the danger and seeking external validation. This involves reaching out to trusted friends, family, or professional services, helplines, domestic violence shelters. Professional trauma-informed therapy is essential to re-establish the sense of self, process the abuse, and build robust boundaries. A safe exit plan, often involving law enforcement or legal support, is crucial to manage the high risk of confrontation during the separation phase. Safety planning must be the priority. 20. Conclusion: reclaiming autonomy. The struggle against dangerous attachment is ultimately a fight to reclaim autonomy, the right to self-govern. The core difference between love and possession is the sacred space for the partner's freedom. A possessive relationship imprisons the spirit, a healthy one liberates it. Recovery centers on the target relearning to trust their own judgment, re-establishing their own boundaries, and understanding that true partnership is about two distinct, whole individuals choosing to walk side by side, not one individual attempting to absorb and control the other.